good morning. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Thanks for joining me this morning. My name is Mary Thomas. I am the Director of Data at Platform.sh, and I am here to talk to you about why your weakness is your superpower. It is a catchy hook of a title, I know. But ultimately, what I want you to walk away with today is the energy to go figure out what your strengths are and to accept that there are just going to be things that you will never be good at. There are talents that you will never have. And despite that, you can still develop in your career. Your weakness, and more specifically, your awareness of your weakness, is your superpower. Please bear with me. I have two computers up here, one for my notes, one for the slides, so I'm sorry if I'm a little delayed on clicking the next slide. All right, so bottom line, this is what we'll cover. I'm here to advocate for a strengths-based approach to a lot of things, to solving for your weaknesses, to existing within your teams, to shifting the culture that you create at work, and ultimately to growing as a professional. So what are weaknesses? Well, we're traditionally told, oftentimes through our performance review cycles, through peer feedback, or even through our own self-reflection, that we are good at some things, awesome, look, all good over in this corner, but we are just bad at other things, thumbs down, doing terrible. Sometimes we label them as areas for improvement or ways that we could do better, but ultimately it's a label for things that we are just not inherently good at. So let me introduce you to this hypothetical app development team at a company called Best Tech. The synergy they've worked to find over several months is unmatched, but it hasn't always been that way. Aisha on the left, she came to Best Tech after a few years in data science, so that's your clue to know she codes in Python. Luna in the middle, they joined Best Tech straight out of a university's computer science program. And Henri on the right, he transitioned to a tech role as a second career after working in a medical laboratory. With a breadth of experience like that, like holy cow, we got a lot of different talent here. It's really easy to look to your left and to your right and to think, how can a group of such disparate people actually work together? We are developers. We crave predictability, automation, consistency. How can we possibly distribute work among these varied personalities and expect consistent, predictable results? Well, the team had the exact same thought. And when they got put together, comparison ruled the room. After 6 months, despite their managers' hope for teamwork, their feedback left them all feeling like everyone else had the skills that they themselves wanted to develop and needed to develop. Aisha, she's proud of her ability to arrange tasks for the team during sprint planning, and she has a knack for knowing what needs to happen, when and why. But her manager told her that under pressure, she isn't keeping up with executing tasks when learning is involved. She's an experienced Python developer after all. She's kind of past her years of needing to gather inputs, and it wasn't something that she ever really felt good doing anyway. Luna, on the other hand, is a problem solver by nature. They see a bug, and they are able to attack it with their analytical mind. But they get stuck in that intellectual hole sometimes. Who can relate to that? Getting stuck in an intellectual hole? Yeah, that's like very much myself. And they forget to resurface to check in with their team. Henri, on the right, he uses his influential personality to make sure that his team's work is aligned with the product's goals. And more specifically, when there is a disconnect, he brings knowledge and persuasion to the conversation. But for as successful as he is with that, he lacks follow-through, and the tasks that he needs to complete within the team are left unchecked. he lacks the awareness to be a helpful teammate at times. Okay, let's take a minute to unpack that. There's a lot of personality happening there. First, Aisha, Luna, Henri, and their manager are all stuck in this comparison game. And it's been said a million times, and I'll say it another one, comparison is the thief of joy. Not only that, but their weaknesses, or areas where they could do better, are in some cases innate talents that they just don't have. It's starting to build a negative team culture, and as a result, their productivity isn't at the level that it could be. So what does that mean for their advancement? Well, it could mean nothing, and it could mean everything. When we consider that their and our ability to reflect on the skills we want to foster using the talents that we have by nature. Those are two distinctly different things, and I'm going to unpack that in a moment. So let's get some foundational vocabulary to build on. I will talk about these three different things that are often used to refer to the same thing. Talents are different from skills, which are different from strengths. Talents are our naturally recurring patterns of thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. They are the raw material that we are actually born with based on how we operate in the world. And they are the most important part of our strength equation because they cannot be acquired. We have them. They are our nature. Skills, however, along with knowledge, can be acquired with investment. We develop skills over time with training, experience, and practice. Our skills are technical, like the programming languages we learned, or the cooking that we practice at home. Or they could be less technical, like the investment that we make in communicating with others, or the learning components of project management best practices. Just all those are just examples. So where do strengths fit in? Well, strengths are the combination of those two things. Put our talents, our skills, and knowledge together, and that allows us to consistently provide near perfect results. Strengths require both your natural talent and your investment in skills and knowledge to complement your talents. Knowing the difference between talent, skills, and strengths, then we can accept some spoilers that face our day-to-day. Sorry to burst your bubble, but let's just go through them. First, people don't change that much. That's actually a huge gift to the concept of professional development. We don't have to be sad about the things we're just not inherently good at. You might be tempted to bring uniformity to talents, to put in yourself what was inherently left out, but it wasn't left out. You do have the talents that you have, and they're innate. I'm going to say that about 13 times because I think it takes 13 times for people to actually hear what you're saying. I don't know. That's science. I'm kidding. It's not science. Finally, instead of trying to put in what was left out, you should be trying to draw out what is already inside of you. Okay, so let's revisit our team. The company is called Best Tech, remember. We're going to take a look at their collection of talents and strengths and see how we could properly formulate some feedback for their manager and for each other. All right, so Aisha has a strong talent of arranging. She can see all the parts and put them in place just so. She developed the skill of efficient and productive development planning through her years of Python programming experience in end-to-end data science. I don't know, maybe that rings true to me, being a director of data. I don't know. Anyway, combined together, her strength at Best Tech is arranging development processes for her team. All right, so Luna is naturally gifted with an analytical mindset. Maybe you caught on to that earlier. They found success in university by being able to dissect a problem and use intellect to solve it. And they are adept at continuing that skill at Best Tech to foster their problem-solving strength. Next, Henri has the ability to bring ideas to life. He invested in his communication skills while working at the medical lab, where he introduced and influenced management to iterate over lab procedures to optimize productivity and safety. At Best Tech, he's able to share his team's solutions with energy that brings people across the company on board with their plans. He is able to influence decision-making in the company's and his team's best interest now at Best Tech. All right, so what if we take a look back at their performance reviews? Some of the trends that we see in their performance review make sense. Aisha's natural talent for arranging was picked up in her manager's positive feedback. She also doesn't have Luna's depth of analytical talent. Okay, so I'm going to gray out that portion of her review. Luna's analytical focus is front and center, but they don't have Henri's power of communication. All right, so let's gray out that portion of Luna's review. And Henri's influence helps the team have a large impact, but he doesn't stay organized like Aisha to complete tasks efficiently. Great. Well, you're like, how do they get anything done then, right? I went ahead and made sure that we are kind of like not thinking about their weaknesses anymore. Let's gray them out. We're going to reassess on behalf of their manager in just a moment. Okay, so speaking of manager, you might be thinking, this sounds like something their manager should have been doing all along. Why should we, everyday developers who exist as individual contributors, care? Well, it's simple. We all, every one of us, exist on a team. We work with other humans. Okay, we're not working with robots. Day in and day out, we are working with humans. I saw you look at your friend over there. Is he a robot? Anyway, I can guarantee that probably 90% of the conflict you experience on a day-to-day basis with your coworkers is just a mismatch of your strengths. You just work differently. We have a responsibility to bring our own best selves to work, and to help draw that out in others as well. Sure, managers play a role in that too. I'm a manager of people as well. I love this style of management in my own work, but if you're a manager out there, I highly encourage you to explore what that looks like, to draw out the natural talents and strengths within your team, rather than trying to create those predictable robots. But bottom line, it does not take being a manager to put strengths-based team culture into practice. What does it mean to put strengths-based team culture first and foremost? Well, your first stop should be to explore your own strengths. There are myriad ways to do this. You can take a survey. Probably everybody's taken a personality survey. Some of you hate them, I get it. Some of you love them, that's me. But there's tons of options out there. My favorite is the Clifton Strengths assessment because they do international research with this set of data. And it's been going on for decades, so they've got piles on piles of data. You can do 16 personalities, you can do Enneagram, there are tons of options. Another option is to just ask those around you. Ask your coworkers, ask your loved ones, what do you think I'm good at? But not only that, why do you think I'm good at that? That's where you'll find the talents, that answer to the why. Why do you think I'm good at what I do? You can also inventory yourself, looking for patterns in ways that you feel most accomplished at work or in your hobbies. But ultimately, I do recommend at least getting an outside opinion, if not taking some kind of survey, because eventually the least biased way to identify your strengths is to take an outside perspective. As long as those people are being honest with you, or you're being honest with yourself when you answer those questions. All right, so maybe your teammates are here. You sit next to somebody you know, somebody you work with, and they're interested in doing the strengths finding together. Or maybe you're gonna ask your management to help everyone explore their talents. Or maybe you just need to take some time to think about the people you work with, to identify their patterns of success. knowing their patterns of success is the way to understanding how you can best support them and how you can best work with them. It's about everybody learning to work with each other, not one person being the center of the universe. Remember, the goal isn't to all be the same. The goal is to identify how you are all different and to use that to your advantage. So listen and hunt for your teammates' strengths as well. All right, once we have this common understanding of our own and our teammates' strengths, we need to build conversations around that. It's not enough to just know. We need to put it into practice. We need to keep it at the top of our mind. This will help us reinforce our ability to not only pick out those strengths while we're working on the day-to-day, but to go to them as our first stop in approaching new problems and opportunities within our own work and with the work with others. We can keep them front of mind by praising ourselves based on the work application of our talents. We are our only constant cheerleaders, after all, and we can't always expect others to do it for us. We can keep the strengths lens in our minds when we review our teammates' collaboration and contribution. How did they apply their strengths? How can we support them to do that again in the future? And when is the best time to discuss this? Should we mention it in our sprint rituals? Should we talk about it at stand-up? Should it be only during peer review cycles? And collectively, we can celebrate when we all bring our strengths together and see a confluence of collaboration, productivity, and success. Okay, but change is hard. It takes time, it takes investment, practice, trial, error, trial again. We can work toward building a holistic strengths-based culture by bringing our talents into more context and conversations. The culture shift starts with something really basic, and we touched on it just a minute ago when we talked about bringing strengths to the front of our mind. It starts with communication. Clear, open, honest communication. I'm going to say that again because I strongly believe in this. Clear, open, and honest communication. This means that we have to put thought into what we say, both verbally and non-verbally. We have to communicate what our goals are. We have to advocate for our strengths. And probably something, admittedly, I don't do enough, is we have to listen to each other. We have to figure out how we all fit together. But I just said that, didn't I? Yes, because it's that important. Communication. Okay, so strengths-based growth. Remember those traditional doing well, doing poorly performance reviews I mentioned at the start? We can change that narrative into something that's a more meaningful reflection. In what ways are our strengths serving ourselves, our team, our work? And in what are alternative ways that we could be applying those strengths? What skills could we invest in to combine with our talents to build upon our strengths? We can use that strengths equation to our advantage, rather than highlighting the innate talents that we just don't have. For example, let's remember Aisha. One of her talents is that she is great at arranging. She sees all the moving parts and is able to articulate how to execute on them efficiently. However, she's gotten into the habit of changing things around to improve efficiency without giving her team any of that context. Her brain's going a million miles a minute, none of that is visible to anybody else, and we're stuck in a loop. This is a good reminder that she needs to explain the why behind what she's doing, and put it in front of the group so that they can take the time to understand. Okay, this kind of strengths-based approach forces us to acknowledge that we are literally incapable of doing everything. That feels so good. Like, I don't have to do everything. It's such a freeing concept. We are good at what we're good at, and we can let go of the things that we aren't. We must rely on our teammates and their strengths to complete our collective work. This inherently breaks down the silos that would otherwise form within our teams, and it helps us build trust across our teammates. Remember Henri? He has the skill to effectively advocate for his team's ideas to the rest of the company. Luna and Aisha know that he has this innate talent, and they trust him to complete that communication. In the other direction, Henri trusts that Aisha has arranged the work and Luna has solved the problem in the best way possible. It's great. Everybody's leaning on each other's strengths. Finally, onboarding is a scary word. Moving people around. The only constant we really have in work and life is change. Things are going to change. We will inevitably need to add more teammates and their talents onto our teams. And we may even say goodbye to some along the way as well. Having a strengths-first focus at onboarding and offboarding helps make us aware of how new team members will contribute or what gaps old team members might be leaving behind. So, to recap, we can shift our team's culture by using clear, open, honest communication, by focusing our performance reviews and professional development on strengths-based growth, by using our knowledge of others' strengths to break down silos and build trust, and by using moments of adding or subtracting members of our team to reevaluate our breadth of team talent and strengths. It sounds so easy, right? Or maybe it doesn't sound easy. It's up to you to decide. Either way, it's a lot of work. It takes dedication and kindness to see the people you work with as unique human beings, individuals who all bring something to the table and who very likely do not bring the same thing you do. This kind of difference brings us to a place where we need to embrace our weaknesses, to have humility in the knowledge that while we are innately talented at some things, we are just as innately not talented at other things. Rather than coming from a place of arrogance or humiliation about our own talents or lack thereof, we can uplift and support the varied talents in our coworkers and build collaboration and shared success. So let's take a trip back to Best Tech. Knowing what we know now, how might we revise the performance reviews of this team and give individualized, strengths-based feedback? We know Aisha's an arranger by nature. Maybe her manager could have unpacked the concept of learning on the fly, or lack thereof, a bit more. Her teammates know that she holds a lot of knowledge at once and is able to consider all the moving parts. So perhaps the real feedback is that she isn't reacting quickly enough to the inputs from others. Also, Aisha isn't only skilled at arranging. So considering her other strengths, she could fill the gap in communication with a bit more structure for connecting with the team. She could use the reminder, after all, to make sure that she herself is sharing what's going on in her brain. Might as well take the opportunity to bring the whole team along for it. Okay, Luna. They are the team's analytical bug hunter. Their boss could have taken time to learn that Luna is getting stuck in that analytical cycle, that their strength is taking over a bit too much, and they need a better framework within which they can create an indicator for themselves to resurface, to exit that analytical space. They already have the skill of bringing structure to the unstructured. So their boss could help Luna figure out how to tweak their structure to prevent them from getting stuck. Luna is just not inherently going straight to communication. It's not in their nature. But it can be built into their process by adding a written and/or verbal analytical communication skill to their repertoire. So they could practice. They could combine analytical talent with skills in some form of analytical communication to come up with this confluence of amazingness in an analytical strength. But their boss doesn't need to pinpoint that Luna is just not a good communicator. They need to help figure out how to bring Luna's analytical results, how to bring it out in a way that fits with their strengths. And finally, we have Henri. Henri's success with communicative storytelling comes from being able to individualize his approach. But perhaps what his manager was really picking up on was that Henri is dominating conversations within his own team as well. He's an external processor, after all, and as he talks things through, he covers a lot of ground really fast without actually committing to anything or any one particular path. This is where the feedback about not following through comes from. His communication strength can be better channeled. Let's ask him to summarize the results of different team meetings, to bring the results of tasks as a milestone for completion. His manager can encourage him to empower others with the right words and to bring out what they want to communicate as well. He could be reminded that communication is just as much about listening as it is about speaking. And he may pick up on more of the strategy and arrangement that his teammates are trying to convey if he were doing more supportive dialogue instead of influential dialogue. Okay, so what are our revised "what could you do better" responses then? We need to accept the weaknesses and find ways to use the strengths to work around those weaknesses. Aisha is not inherently going to learn on the fly. Okay, fine. She could improve on sharing the things that she holds in her brain, though, and she can shed light on all of the inputs that she's aware of and that are necessary for the team, and therefore highlight some of the gaps in communication, maybe highlight some of the gaps in knowledge. Luna's weakness is open forum communication. Cool. I love that journey for them. I'm sure people can relate. They need to put communicating as a step in a structure somehow, to put it into an analytical stance. Henri lacks follow-through. Darn, that's too bad. But he could be a better listener, and he can channel his communication skills in ways that will support the team and move them toward more meaningful contribution internally. So it's not so much about a lack of follow-through as it is about channeling the communication and helping bring out his strength that can support his teammates as well. Ultimately, this best tech example is really simplistic, and it just so happens that it all kind of boiled down to better communication, which is also, a good thing. But trust me, it's not going to be this easy all the time, but it's worth it because we get to that place of productivity, of acceptance, of, just, I don't want to even say productivity because that also makes it about, the work unit. It's about treating each other as humans and knowing the people you work with. Okay, so briefly, let's take a step back through what we covered. Talents are our naturally recurring patterns of thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. Skills are developed over time with training, experience, and practice. And strengths are the combination of talents and skills. You need to identify your strengths to really be able to take a conscious approach here. You can also support your teammates in finding their strengths. And you should keep your strengths front of mind and keep their strengths front of mind in communication and in thought processes. Finally, we took a look at the culture shift that comes along with a strengths-based approach. Clear, open, honest communication is a necessary foundational element. Areas for growth stem from our strengths, not from our weaknesses. We start breaking down silos and building trust by relying on our own and others' strengths. And that brings us to the end. I'm happy to take questions. Again, my name is Mary from Platform.sh. I really appreciate your time and attention. And yeah, go right ahead. I welcome any questions. I got this cool box I can throw around. You have one. Okay. I'm supposed to throw this, but I'm a little nervous. Are you ready? Okay.
I had a question about pair programming or doing any task in a pair. Like, how does this method apply?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, pair programming is a way that we kind of like take work units and make them functional. And so I really see that also still. If we take the example of the folks I had up here, and by no surprise, those are inspired by people I actually know. But you pair the analytical mindset with the arranger, and the analytical person is really able to see all of the details to know exactly what's going on. But the arranger is able to see how all of those things need to get done in a particular sequence or in a particular way. So I don't really see it as with pair programming, you're still coming up with different patterns of thought, and I think that really it actually benefits pair programming to have different strengths in the room. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it's very complementary.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Right behind you.
Hi. And what if you have some people who actually want to change, to work on their weaknesses and want to transform them into strength? What would we do with them?
Yeah, so I think that there's, I really struggle with the word weakness. And I actually had a coworker ask me this. So like, isn't what you're suggesting just like a different way of formulating work on your weaknesses? And genuinely, I think that we have particular talents that we are good at, and we need to just own those talents and find ways to work around things that we aren't good at. So for example, if I am extremely influential, I have really good communication, I might not be the most organized person, and organization is like one of those things that always lands on a review cycle. Like, you're just not organized, or you're really organized. Like, that's a pretty it's a pretty big dichotomy there. Anyway, the organization isn't going to come from like an arranger talent. You're not going to be able to say, I will become an arranger. I'll be able to know all the moving parts. You're going to have to figure out what organization works for the talent that you have. So if you're super communicative, then maybe organization comes from having a meeting with somebody on a weekly basis that allows you to flesh out everything that you're thinking or everything that you're doing, and then you can work from there. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, and that's kind of the like anti-robot approach that I believe in. So yeah. Does that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Cool, thanks. Anybody else? Awesome. Well, I will be at the Platform.sh booth. I'll be in this room quite often. Happy to have tons of talk about strengths-based approach. It is obviously my jam. And thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.